will.
So yeah, we talk VR weekly, 2 to 3 episodes a week on average. So
For the past 3.5 years.
Yep. Never missed a week.
No.
So it's been a pretty busy schedule, but that's us, just talking all the latest and greatest in the world of VR.
Awesome. And for the folks we're super glad to have you all on. We're, the way for those of you who haven't seen our AMAs, sorry about that. Basically everything is in conversation style, so we do ask questions. But we also invite you to take part. So feel free to ask any questions that you have in the chat, and we'll weave them in here somehow, and see how we can get you whatever answer you need. So first, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourselves? Not so much your podcast, but about you individually. Give us an idea of kind of where you started with VR, what kind of games you enjoy, what kind of experiences.
So we got the Quest with the Quest 2 pretty much at launch. I think I got it, and you heard I got it, and we're like, I need to order this now.
Well, no, I said, how good is it? Because I don't want to spend the money unless you said it's real good. And then that was it. The order was placed.
And then we instantly fell in love with it. Besides the podcast, just in terms of like what games I enjoy and stuff like that, I've been gaming since I was, probably my earliest memories playing like Red Alert and stuff like that on his computer. So I love real-time strategy games. I was never so much of a shooter fan, flat screen, but in VR, shooters are some of my favorites, like Population 1, Ghost of Tabor, probably my number one all-time VR game. So I gravitate a lot towards shooters, even though that's not what I traditionally was. But just love a good strategy game in the end. That's probably my number one genre. And yeah, just fell in love with VR the second got the headset, and it was kind of a no-brainer to start the podcast. I'll let you go now.
Yeah, I mean, I've been gaming since I'm obviously older, so since the 70s. I was born in 70. So we had like the TV version of Pong, like no lie. And then we got the Atari 2600, and then of course Coleco, and then television. You always knew somebody who had like the latest and I've been sucked in every single console that's ever been made, and lived for a day where I knew VR was a thing, but I never knew it would actually evolve in my lifetime to where it's at right now, to where the experience is legit. So
Well,
the minute you confirmed how good it was when you put on a headset, that's why I was like, I don't even need to try it to buy it. I know I'm gonna.
It's trippy for me that started with, where computer gaming was and, handheld gaming like the Game Boy was back in, the late 90s and early 2000s when I was a kid. But I can't imagine on your end literally going from Pong, two rectangles in a square,
square balls,
to
even the 2600, it was all squares.
A full immersive 3D environment.
You lived for it. It reminds me of being a kid and watching a cartoon, and I think every kid in the whole world has thought like, why can't I go into the television set? Like why can't I be part of this? I don't want to sit here and just watch it.
That's why we love board games in VR, and why it's like such an undertapped market, because like it makes the board game come to life. Isn't that what you've always wanted to do?
100%.
Playing board games as a kid.
You envision it as a kid, and as an adult, you lose that.
Even just like Monopoly, Game of Life. Where are all these in
take
VR?
Them all, man.
Arlen in the chat said StarCraft, but I'm going to use this opportunity to say, where is Civilization in VR? That's the one time I'll say that on this live.
I would be super happy for Civ. That would be crazy. It'd be you'd never get out of your headset because one turn is going to take you 3 hours. So.
And Beavis is asking if we've seen All on Board. That's a game that went in Kickstarter maybe like 2 years ago, and I think it's getting closer to release. I'm so hyped for that. It's like a sandbox, create whatever board game you want game.
When we saw the conceptually of it years ago, we were like, if this is everything it professes to be, it's going to be freaking.
People are going to make Monopoly. They're going to make life.
Make anything you want. So. Yeah.
Sorry, Ryan. I'll let you continue. We're getting a little crazy.
And Beavis says closed beta just started. So I think that was just a couple days ago, actually.
Exciting.
No, that's good.
Yeah, I mean, same here. Like, I grew up right at 80. So I was coming right out of the Atari age, kind of right at that weird little crash, because everybody who wanted to make a game for Atari did, and totally blew the market up. And then into Nintendo, and ever since then, I've been collecting consoles at a ridiculous rate. So, I hear about like that kind of thing. It's like, yeah, same here. I get into it, and now we're actually into it. So it's a lot of fun. VR is definitely one of my favorite, probably my favorite medium at this point.
Ryan,
Um,
can I flip the script and ask what was actually the first VR experience you tried?
okay, so okay, you might actually remember this out of stories, and maybe you've actually experienced one. I think Stratus, you probably know what I'm talking about. So out here we have the Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk. It's been in tons of movies, Lost Boys, all that kind of stuff. So that's the setting. But they have a big arcade. And way back, like I was like low teens, they had one of the big virtuosity machines. And the ones that you stand up on top of a platform, and it's got the ring around you and the super ridiculously bulky um, HMD. And that was actually the first one I played. I always forget the name of the game, but it's the pterodactyl one. That was remade a few years back by somebody. That was actually my first one, where I was spending like $5 a play for like 90 seconds at what felt like 8 frames per second. Like it was pretty bad. Playing on a checkerboard in space, it was awesome, but at the same time, nobody had VR legs yet, so you know. But that was mine, um, and I still remember it fondly.
Yeah,
I remember those. They were in shopping malls too in the
Hmm.
early '90s. And worse than the actual game itself was the monitor that they'd put that people could stand and watch, and it looked so bad, dude. It was not. But
Yeah,
what brought me down a little with those were like the sheer vast size that you needed just for even that, and it was like obvious that the consumer is never going to buy this. Maybe the rich millionaire has one in their house, but
now it's this big
oh, dude, I'm
for
telling you,
full.
man, the technology push has just been phenomenal in my lifetime. It's crazy.
Yeah, I always love hearing those first VR experiences. So just to poke at the live chat a bit, if anybody wants to post their first ever VR game or experience, they did. I always like to
There'll be
read.
a lot of Half-Life in there.
Yeah.
over and over. Yeah, I played Half-Life Alex. Like that's an amazing game also. So following along with all of that, we kind of know where everything started, but where was it? Doesn't even have to be in the beginning. It could be in the middle. It could be last week. What game has hit you with like that super wow moment? Like, what is that one where you're like, got you into VR, or you're like, VR has arrived, or you're anything like that? What's your absolute favorite wow moment?
Oh, it's so hard to pick a favorite.
I don't have a favorite
I
because
can
I have a rotate. I mean,
I I can speak to that first moment of climbing the tower in Population 1. It was the first time
getting
my
that woozy feeling. Yeah.
yeah, that doesn't happen to me anymore, but my
No.
hands were dripping sweat because I'm not good with heights in real life.
Well, and also when we started with, in the headsets, the store wasn't as vast as it is,
Mhm.
so it was very much limited to.
Versus today is crazy.
We just looked for everything multiplayer. I swear to God, we
Right.
were just like, if it says multiplayer, let's grab it.
And
But I
then when
remember that Pop One feeling.
and that's when we found App Lab and went nuts. Well, technically App Lab came out shortly after we got the headset, but that was part of our big instantly falling in love with App Lab was how much we were looking for multiplayer games. But yeah, Pop One was like the first game I played that really gave me that feeling.
Oh, and the freedom too when you could fly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy,
So
dude.
there's so many wow moments, so many great games that stick out. But if I think the easiest for me to answer is that first one, which was climbing that tower to Pop One. And it was funny because I didn't realize it was happening to me till I was too high up, and I was like, oh my
Oh,
goodness,
and
I'm
you look down.
almost a little frozen. Do you have another one that sticks
I
out?
mean, Pop One definitely, but I remember doing the climb, and that was another time where I got that real life sensation of like bad stuff could go down if I fall, which meant for that moment in time, I truly lost my, I was
Hmm.
realistically there. It was like mentally, I was prepared for my doom, but
Something a bit unrelated was I was never a puzzle game fan,
no,
but instantly that
not
first
like
level of I expect
spe-
you to die in that car instantly made me fall in love with puzzle games.
for a series. They're probably my favorite
Exactly.
all
Hmm.
around. I can't get enough of it. I hope there's going to be, and I expect you to die 100 because they're just never going to stop.
Definitely.
But yeah, I
Yeah, I'm
never
in
knew I would
that
enjoy
same boat.
puzzle games so
Even like
much in VR.
cubism, puzzling places.
Yeah, Puzzling Place is amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, Puzzling
Anywho,
Places is great, but I totally agree with I Expect You to Die. Like being a huge escape room fan, like sitting there and being in the car and you're like, cool, so how you gonna get out of this? It's like, I don't know.
oh,
And then you start
with
working.
zero direction.
Yep.
I will shout out. Unfortunately, it's a game you can't even get anymore because the developer hasn't kept it up to date with updates, and I don't even know the last time he updated it. It was around the time we started our podcast. It was called Rodent People Origins, and it was a co-op escape room that was so ridiculous and goofy, but so much fun. I loved it. Escape rooms in VR are amazing.
Definitely. Cool. So let's just say you have a friend over, never played VR ever in their life. What would you give to them first? Like what game, what app, what experience would you give them? And I hope it's not Richie's Blink experience because that's terrible. That's
No,
so
that
mean.
I of course like gravitate to what I did, which was jump on a roller coaster
Yeah,
and
that's what you don't want to do.
get myself motion sickness
Huge
right out of
props
the
to you
gate.
that you kept being a big VR user.
Well, I
After
did
that
it
was your
once,
first one.
wouldn't feel good, did it again instantly and was like, okay, I guess maybe I am. And then I'll do it a third time and see how I feel. And then that was
So,
I would put somebody in, honestly, just so I could be there would be, because we have multiple headsets, would be Walkabout.
ooh, that's a good first one. Play it with
Yep,
them.
exactly.
Ooh,
Mhm.
that's a damn good one. So yeah, just to continue what you were saying. First, before I answer, I'll say what not to do, which is exactly what you said. Don't put them in.
Don't do what I did.
Don't put them in roller coasters and stuff like that. No roller coasters at first.
Couldn't
Man,
help myself. It
I
was so
had an
good.
answer prepared, but walkabout mini golf. If you have the ability to play with them,
That's what I'm
walkabout mini
saying.
golf is peak. But if they're gonna play single player, I would say I Expect You to Die.
Ooh, that's a great one.
Yeah, just because that, or take
Yeah,
them
and
through a couple
you're not
levels of Job Sim, something that really shows the interactability of VR as well.
I would think that I Expect You to Die would be too much on the brain right out of the gate, though.
You also got to know who you're showing.
Yeah.
Some people aren't
Oh,
going to
yeah,
like
yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
style
No, 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 I
of
get it.
game. I have shown a lot of
Yeah,
people Thrill of the Fight as their first game, and instantly they
that's a
fell in
good
love.
one.
But yeah, but you're catering, and this is, I
To a
guess,
younger, like,
well,
you
and
know,
this is a better way to really define the question is like it's really dependent on
the
the
person.
person and what
Hmm.
they like because you can
Right.
pull something that somebody likes from VR and put them into it. So if they're into golf, I mean, shit, I mean, you could say golf plus,
Hmm. I know somebody
I
likes
was more into
boxing
Exactly.
that.
or MMA or something. I'm
Yeah,
throwing them in Thrill of the Fight.
exactly,
Somebody
exactly.
hates to
Yeah.
sweat. I probably don't want to throw them in Thrill of the Fight. Maybe put them in Walkabout or I Expect to
Family
Die. Or,
or even younger
Mhm.
peeps, teenagers, yeah,
Yeah.
and definitely Walkabout.
And again, somebody
Uh,
likes silly humor. Job Sim's a really good one.
Yeah, I can't argue that.
I think the best is to
yeah.
have like a rotating like a
Cater it
option
to
for them
the
to choose
audience.
from. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, I actually had a couple friends a few weeks ago who had never played VR, and I had like my Quest 2, and I had my 3, and a Pro. So I put them all in it. Of course, I had to buy the game one extra time for the third headset, but I got them in there. In the very first one I played, because they're like, I want to see something crazy, so I put them in Upside Down. And that was like the one I was like, this is gonna bend your brain. And they got in there when you started having to play on the ceiling, it was instantly what I hoped they would say is exactly what they said. They're like, you could not do this in real life. And that's what they were hoping out of VR. So I was like, Walkabout is the perfect game to get people, you know, to really understand where that like limit of reality like disappears.
I agree.
Um,
Upside Down was a bit of probably the most controversial
Yeah.
Walkabout course. I still loved it. Oh, just to shout out to you, know, it's another good one. Vader Immortal. Put them in part one. The
yeah,
Lancer comes punching
we
through the wall.
Yeah.
That's a good
Oh,
one.
it's just you have that first moment of like Vader in your face, and you're just like, wow, he's a tall man. Let's see what else. Okay, so
Any board game would
outside,
be good.
yes. I would love there was an app a long time ago, and I forgot the name of it at this point, but somebody had actually remade the Fallout board game. And being a massive Fallout fan like I am, like it was almost perfect to where my friends and I kept going back to it over and over and over again. It was a lot of fun. Board games are great, and that's why I think Demio is like a great entry into that.
Absolutely.
So
That was Population 1 was supposed to be our first ever episode
Yep.
of Rough Talk VR. We're going to
Until-
review Population 1. And then, Demio came out and we fell in love. And then Population 1 became the second episode. Demio was just so good.
We still play.
either one of them would have been great, though. So
Mhm. And when Demio came out, it was one book. I mean, what
Yeah.
are they at? Like 7, 8 books? It's ridiculous.
yeah,
Demio is amazing. I cannot wait. I don't know if everyone knows this. If you don't, now you do.
I already know where you're going.
Resolution Games is partnering with Dungeons and Dragons to make a Dungeons and Dragons VR game. That was announced like what, 6 months ago, 8 months ago? That's insane.
Yep.
When that
and that's
drops,
all it was, an announcement.
Yep.
Yeah.
It was more.
yeah, you're never
definitely.
gonna
Okay,
see me when that comes out. Be like, where's Damien? In Dungeons and
And then-
Dragons.
then we're gonna have to play together because that's just it.
It'll be
okay.
if you want to talk to me, that'll be where you find me. You know, you're gonna have to play it.
So we'll make sure to not schedule a follow up at that point. So okay, outside of games, when you're looking at experiences, what is your favorite kind of experience, and do you have a particular one in mind?
Favorite kind of experience. The problem is I'm such a lover of all of VR.
Is an outside of VR question.
Oh, outside of VR. Sorry, I missed that part. I was
Yes.
reading the chat a little bit.
In real life, right? Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You want to go
Well,
first? Ruben?
it's more like it could be a traveling app, or it could be a video app, or anything like that.
You want to go take it
Go
first?
ahead.
Well, I won't lie. I was kind of reading the chat. I missed the question a little bit. I didn't want to. I was gonna base off your answer a little bit. I was BSing a
Right.
little bit.
So, outside of games, like walkabout, all that kind of stuff,
Oh,
with
okay. I get it.
the vast amount of experiences that are outside of gaming, what are your? Do you have a favorite type, and do you have like an example of one of your favorite experiences?
I can grab that.
Okay.
So
I
as
think I
it-
already know where you're going
as
to.
it stands, well, what meditation apps?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The meditation apps that I've tried, or overall wellness apps, have been amazing. The way that they're put together, I didn't expect, putting on a headset and then chilling out for 12, 15 minutes in a meditation app would be anything special, but it really is, and it can be. And also with that is language learning apps, where like Mondlay,
Mm-hmm.
where you can go in and have a, essentially in real life conversation per se, with words that you would really use with so the only problem is you have so many choices of languages to learn that you find yourself like,
Hopping.
dude, it too much, where you can't, but if you were to focus and want to really learn another language, there's programs in VR that'll achieve that, even using your voice to make sure that you're putting at least enough pronunciation that the program understands you. So yeah, those are two.
Yeah, you're the most unexpected big advocate of VR meditation apps. I think we even did an interview the other week with Solera One, and the developer's like, I don't think you guys are meditation people. And you're like, well, actually,
I've had meditation and cassette tape.
yeah, big fan over here.
Yeah, man.
For me, it's VR animation things. I remember Madrid Noir.
Oh, that gave me the feels.
That was the
so
That was
first.
good.
Yeah,
That was great.
I mean, I won't lie. I was kind of skeptical on the concept. It was something that, like, back then, I mean, I'm talking like the first 6 months of the podcast. I was like, nah, I got VR for games. Like, that's what I'm in for. To watch a film, I don't know. I was like, all right, I'll check this out. This one looks pretty good. And I swear to you, by the end of it, I had a tear in my eye. It was so good.
Yeah.
And then there's been a couple other ones, like Goliath was another good one.
Goliath was a good.
That was a little
knowledgeable-
trippy one,
Yeah.
but it was good.
But how Madrid Noir was so good that like 2 weeks later we interviewed the director.
The director, yeah. James Castillo.
Just
Yeah, so
on
that-
it.
So I love VR animation apps. Anything from Atlas 5, I'm gonna hop on for sure. They have like the Gundam in the works. I'm so excited for
What
that.
about like the Targo documentaries?
Yeah,
The food one?
Targo does a great job. What was
Dude.
the name of their food one again? Do you remember?
Top of my head, I can't. But it was.
They
it
had the
was
sushi
great.
chef.
Yep,
They had the Southern cooking.
Yep. The
And-
soul food cook.
Yep. Ah, that was such a good one.
Yeah, I
I
think
digress.
one that I like to throw at people, and it seems to be very unassuming, and nobody would think that I would give them this, but one of my favorite non-gaming apps to give people is the Cirque du Soleil um, app that has like a series of different scenes based off of all their different shows. And you look anywhere and something's going on, and they did a really great job of always they're always paying attention to you no matter where you're at. And it's if you haven't given it a shot, like I would totally I would totally recommend it. It's a really interesting experience. One that I never thought that I would actually enjoy. But also you mentioned the animation. Another one I really liked was what was it called? Oh shoot, I forgot. Was it Manifesto? Is that the one you're looking and like you would just like look at like crows and they would walk you through like a story. I want to say that's it. Something like that. I'll link it in the Discord, but it was very interesting. It was all like solid colored artwork, so like your crow would be completely black, anything that was light color would be like completely white, stuff like that. But it definitely took you a beginning to end light tear shedding at the end of it. So if you haven't seen it, I'll share it in the Discord because it's a really cool one. But yeah, so now let's move on actually to your podcast. Um, so first off, the question that Ninja Guy VR actually asked was, how did you come up with the idea of starting your podcast?
Talking
It's
too much.
so easy. We'd get together every weekend,
Every Sunday.
every Sunday,
Talk for like
and
what, 2 hours, 3 hours?
easily one subject. 'Cause
And-
we can talk a lot. We've always been like that. you know?
Sometimes it would get heated. We don't debate too much on the podcast,
No,
but
we're pretty tame.
off air we can debate. So it'd be a good conversation for 2 to 3 hours.
And I think years before we even started the podcast, we had talked about starting a
Mhm.
podcast.
Every like 6 months or so, it would come
Yeah,
up like,
we
hey, when
really
are we gonna
should,
do
you
it?
know? And because the topics would always be around like sports, MMA,
Well, that was kind of the problem. Like,
specifically
what
MMA.
do we do it about? MMA was kind of the obvious one because we both watch.
Yeah.
News is kind of an obvious one too. But I mean, let's be real. News and politics, that's an easy way to lose all of your friends and family. Very
Pretty quick.
Yeah. So that was off limits. So it was like, I work at a BJJ gym, at a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu gym. It's like, do I want to then do an MMA podcast as well too? So what's the topic? But we got to do something. And I think probably a couple months after we had the headset, that's about
No,
all we were
became a
talking about.
no-brainer. Yeah. Yeah, I think you said it one of the Sundays we were together. All we had been talking about for weeks.
Demia,
was-
population one.
Exactly. And I'm like, damn, if this was recorded, I mean, essentially we're doing a podcast every week anyways.
I might say if if we didn't start the podcast just with how much we were talking about VR, we might both be single at this point because I think our significant others are probably happy we do the show as well. Otherwise, they'd be hearing about VR a lot more. It gives us a good
put this
outlet.
on.
Yeah. So that was it. We always wanted to do it. We
Yeah.
talk a whole bunch.
Subject and we liked the fact that VR was new and it wasn't, like, oh, we're gonna do an
Especially
Xbox
standalone
gaming.
VR.
Yeah. I mean, it's all this new technology. People are getting their hands on it for the first time. And what's going on the ride with everyone is they're getting it as well. And we've been able to, get the newest headsets as they've come out. So we've stayed relevant while keeping the older headsets. And it's just escalated.
And I mean, I'll be honest too. I'll give the spoiler. Like, we were never big YouTube people, like watching the scene a whole bunch in terms of content creation. So like, we were
No.
pretty blind going into starting a podcast and content creation. I think like the first 6 months, we didn't record video. I don't even know if we were uploading on YouTube.
We never mentioned we were
We didn't mention we were father son for
Yeah.
almost a year.
Yeah.
I don't know who's
weird.
That's
That's what happens when you don't consult a marketing team before doing a project.
Well, what happened was we got video, and then there's a little bit of an age discrepancy. So we were like, we should probably explain why, the mid-20s-year-old guy is spending hours
older
upon
guy
hours.
hanging out with his
They're
younger
just
kid.
hanging out a lot. So, we didn't really know what we were doing going into it. It's been a big learning experience, both with learning the audio side. I mean, we still have a picture of it.
Blue Yetis and a 2-foot by 2-foot table.
Horrendous
coffee table.
setup. Yeah, we had the smallest coffee table with so much mic bleed. Like you said, 2 Yetis, which anybody
Yeah.
that's ever used a Blue Yeti, there's such noise bleed on it. Windows doesn't even let you really use 2 USB mics easily. I had to go and do it in OBS all in one take. And I think within 2 months you showed up and you're like, what mic do you think they use on Joe Rogan's podcast?
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know.
I like the sound.
Oh no, how
quality.
much does it cost? How much do you think Joe Rogan's mic costs? And I was like, I don't know, 5,000-6,000. You're like, what if I told you it was $399? I'd be like, that's the worst thing you could have told me, because now I'm tempted. So then, unfortunately, you can't just get the mic. Then you got to get the cloud lifter. Then you got to get the Scarlett or a mixer. Now we have the Rodecaster.
So we don't need the lifter anymore.
So it went from knowing nothing to then pretty quickly we were taking audio side pretty serious.
Yeah.
And then I think it was around the time we interviewed Matt Serra, former UFC Hall of Famer, big fan of VR as well too. If you're an MMA fan, that's a fun fact. We're like, we're going to interview Matt Serra. We need video. And then that's the point we really started YouTube. And yeah, it's just been so much learning along the way of the VR scene.
Every week is a new learning something.
Yeah.
So the ride has just been.
I'm still learning thumbnails. You know, it's a never ending.
It's only been
thing
3.5 years. You know?
I think it wasn't until about a year ago I started doing post processing for when we do interviews for our guests' audio, which makes a huge difference. Of like,
yeah,
you know, we have a Shure, but our guest might not. But I kind of want those to be a little equivalent to the best of its ability. So I got a lot better at enhancing guest audio after the fact as well too. But that's only within the last like year, if that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like we're still growing and learning and figuring so much out.
Cool. So when you figured out like who your guest is going to be, how do you start planning your interviews for your podcast? Like, do you like start off with these are the set of questions we should have? Do you base your questions around subject? Do you base your questions around your guest?
Play the game if it's for an upcoming game, which is usually the case, or like a game that's out. So play the game. Crack the knuckles.
Yeah.
Drink some coffee together. Maybe eat a breakfast sandwich, and let's just dive in.
I think we both used to make like a lot of notes like beforehand, like in the early, and that's since evolved to like honestly, if you could take away my pen and paper and say you're going to interview this person, and we get a flow. It's like it's a real conversation. So I don't ever want a guest to feel like, oh man, I'm telling a story about when 2 years ago, but it's bringing me back to something important to when I was 13. A lot of people won't go there if it's structured too well. So we really want people to just be loose. And
you know, what's the interview that I think nailed the coffin? Because now we go in nothing. We used to go in with a whole set of questions.
I know you're talking about longest interview ever.
Record for Ruff Talk VR. We interviewed Jerry Ellsworth of Tilt VR, Tilt 5, sorry, the AR board game device. And we were like an hour and a half into the podcast. Mm-hmm. She was taking us through pretty much her life story. I think we'd said about 30 seconds of speaking in that whole hour and a half. And she's taking us, year by year. And then I hear her go. And then I was 8. And I was like, dude, we're 90 minutes into this. This is going to be a long one. It was like a 3-hour episode.
One of the best stories.
Oh, my goodness. Such a good story. Such a good episode. So I was like, yeah, dude, we can't go in expecting anything. And I've actually found the more I have planned, the more it gets in the way for myself personally. The only times I've ever like brain farted, like blanked out is if like I have a list in front of me. It's like my brain loses its ability to creatively on the fly figure out questions. I'll make quick notes, who's the developer, what's the guest name, what's the studio, their position, how much does the game cost? We'll write like ratings, reviews, and then just welcome to this episode, introduce yourself, and let's
even if a guest person has asked for questions beforehand, we'll give them like a very generic 1 through 10 with a disclaimer at the bottom that look,
it's not going to be it'll be these
based on the first answer. We're not going to guarantee we're not going to go left or right.
Look, you tell me you're next in line to go to Mars. I'm sorry, I'm going to ask about that.
It's going to come up.
That's so if that wasn't on the list of questions, that's now the episode. So,
but we're honest about it. But in full disclosure for the news episodes, because this is a totally different.
Good question.
We've now evolved to like legit on the production end where it's written out that we have cliff notes.
We have all the topics pre-written.
Like a storyboard is laid out.
Organize what structure they go into, who's going to cover what topic.
So it flows it's just part of the evolvement of
Yeah.
the podcast and that particular thing that we do for the news.
So basic quick facts, developer, studio, cost, ratings, and then just hop in the game, play it, and I'll figure out questions from there. And people's
Absolutely.
stories are so good. I love hearing developers, how they got started, how people discovered VR.
They're all inspirational.
Yeah.
To anybody who might be looking to be. I mean, if you listen to every single developer interview, I guarantee you got a smorgasbord of, just write down one thing that worked for them and you'll see it right in front of you. It's a good blueprint.
Dude, you get Scott Albright from Ghost of Tabor on your podcast.
You're getting the best marketing advice you're going to get.
It's a great time. We could not even talk about Ghost of Tabor for a second, which again, one of the best games in VR, and the whole hour is going to fly by. So again, I feel like anything I go in determined to ask is just going to get in the way.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds like we both went to the same school of podcasting. Just talk, whatever. So, all right, you guys have been doing this podcast for over 3 years now. So you've got some really cool guests. You've gone on some pretty cool adventures. Can you name just a few of like the really cool experiences that you've had?
Do you want to?
Well, man, I when we just got back from Stockholm and then we were in
The
England, the UK for the Ghost of Tabor real life experience. So that right now,
That's number one.
That's probably the number one. It's so fresh in my head. So,
I mean, yeah, we spent.
I wouldn't have thought 3 years ago. I mean, I knew like, yeah, we'll probably play some games, we'll get keys from developers and that's a nice,
maybe meet a few people.
Or we got a hat, or a t-shirt. I'm always stoked for that kind of thing. It's so silly. Yeah.
And then we got stuff like the V Rider helmet. That's freaking cool.
awesome.
V Rider's a great game as well.
But
too.
I never thought in a million years that we would be invited to like out of country events. In country, we've PAX and stuff like that we go to every year. But
yeah, so we have
that threw me a curveball.
We have a good amount of our listeners here and stuff like that. For the people that aren't aware, like a month ago or so, we had the opportunity to go out to Stockholm, Sweden.
Yeah, it was a month ago.
Yeah, just about
June 5th, I think.
So spent like 4 days in Stockholm, Sweden, which is my new favorite city all over the world. Like I've been to, not all over the world, but I've been to a good amount of spots, and Stockholm was unbelievable. The people were amazing. The food was amazing.
Any age, you're gonna have fun there.
Yeah, great spot. So we got to see Beyond Frames. We got to see Fast Travel. We got to go to Resolution Games. Eric Masher from fellow VR podcaster, he was there as well too. We got to play Spatial Ops with him at Resolution Games
in their studio. That was pretty intense.
I'm not gonna, I might have lost the 2v2.
No,
all I'm gonna say is,
you won.
I won the free for all. I was sweating, pouring sweat by the end. I was like sliding across the floor.
You're in it to win it. Plus, we walked like 2 miles to get to the studio, so we get there and it's all.
We hadn't fallen in love complete. I was already in love with them, but like, it was our first day there. We wanted to walk and explore the city. You hadn't tried the electric scooters by the end.
Once I tried I was scootering every day.
No, you were bunny hopping with the scooters.
Yeah, we won't say it was.
Never. No, it would have been funny if you was bunny hopping.
They will though.
So we got to check out Stockholm, check out a bunch of VR studios there. That was awesome. Hang out with.
Did you think we'd be doing that 3 years ago? Though?
No.
Was that even like anything in your?
No.
This year has been.
And then
one of the most phenomenal years ever for us.
And then Ghost of Tabor did like a big in real life, like Ghost of Tabor in real life event that we got to attend immediately from Stockholm. So we went Massachusetts to Stockholm to England for the Ghost of Tabor in real life event, and then back home. So and then Beavis just asked, "Are you guys going to Gamescom?" As of right now, no, but hey, who knows? Sometimes the wind changes direction fast, so. We'll see.
We're open to it.
I don't never turn anything down, but
as is thousands of other people.
That one might
but how great
beat
is this
Gamescom. I mean, sorry, that one might beat Sweden. If Gamescom happened, that one might. I don't know.
Our January started great.
Yeah. February. Yeah, on February 2nd, we did a gaming showcase, which like Upload VR does. Like, there's one coming up in a month now. They call it VR Gaming Showcase. We did the Ruff Talk VR Gaming Showcase. We had a bunch of developers submit trailers for upcoming VR games and really put together a great 1 hour presentation of it. And that was something I never thought we would do either. So damn it, that's up there with Sweden as well too.
Yep. The evolution.
I know you guys have interviewed like tons and tons of people at this point. Do you have any that really like stand out? You're like, oh, I was really hoping we would get this person, and we did, and it was amazing. Um, Not saying who's your favorite, but is there just that one person you got that you would really hope at some point you'd be able to interview?
It's funny because I wouldn't know it's him specifically. It's more the position to be able to talk to. But it was awesome that the fact that we got Chris Pruitt from Meta probably
Mhm.
like what, two years ago.
Yeah, that's probably the standout one because I didn't think it was achievable.
Or Matt Sarah.
That was for as early as we were. I still don't know how that happened.
I wish we got that a year later.
Yeah.
Because we were so
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
green
yeah, yeah.
and bad in that. I can't even listen to that interview. I didn't know. I was still like learning a lot more about VR and stuff
was-
back then. It's terrible
it
to
was
go
rough.
back and listen to.
But it's still there.
Yeah, but Chris Pruitt and Matt Sarah for me. Chris Pruitt, he's the head of, or at that time, I don't know what his position would be now or nothing, but was like the head of the content ecosystem. You know,
He gave us a really good education in that episode
mm-hmm.
because one of our complaints at the time was there should just be a button for App Lab. And he really broke down like why it's just not that simple and a lot of how the ecosystem works. And I just didn't think we'd ever get that opportunity.
I could say my dream guests in the VR scene that we haven't gotten yet would be Zuck and Palmer Lucky, without a doubt, those two. But I think everybody wants to talk to those two. So
Yeah, they're pretty popular.
Just a bit.
Just a tad bit
Well,
popular.
good because that answers the question that Envy asked that I was about to ask you. Let's say, okay, outside of those two, studio wise, is there anybody that you would like to get on your podcast
Yeah,
besides
I
all of
mean,
them?
that's tough because there's so many studios that I mean, because
That
in a
we
way
have
they're
talked to.
they're unsung heroes too, and the ones that are still emerging. So it's a growing market.
You know what?
There's probably somebody at Beyond Frames that we need to speak with.
Mm-hmm.
It's a no brainer.
And then I want to get the developer of Thrill the Fight on when Thrill the Fight 2
Correct.
is ready. I think I've been sending him messages since we started Rough Talk VR. Not harassment. I'm being silly with that too, but like he was probably the first person I ever reached out to for an interview, and he's just been so head in the sand with Thrill the Fight 2 this whole time. So probably that one. And yeah, I agree, Mike. Ace or Mava from Beyond Frames.
Yep. You're a mind reader, Mike. Actually, it should.
Okay.
Oh no, go ahead.
Go ahead. No. I want to hear your thoughts.
Mike triggered our recent interview with
Robin Mulder.
Yeah,
Who's
you want to hear a human being who's like busy in. I keep thinking about it repetitively. Is like this woman is single-handedly taking on responsibility to help make the ecosystem like the best it can be, and it's incredible to watch it play out because we've had her on 3 times now on the show. Obviously, we'll have her on probably 4, 5, and 6 as well, but the hustle that some people have in this industry is way underrated.
Mm-hmm.
So just Mike triggered that.
Yeah, Mike's the community manager for 3 Pound Games. Great VR studio, doing a lot of cool stuff. They've had some great
Who needs sleep?
some great games in the past, like Space Dragon Unchained and stuff. But their game Grocket, it's kind of like a VR mini game collection game. That's really cool. And then even cooler, if you ask me, is they're working on something called Grow Kit, which we dived into with Robin.
Yeah,
which is like basically building block inside of Unity to easily make VR games. A lot of like drag and drop. I don't want to use wrong terms or anything.
Yeah.
Go listen to our interview with Robin. She'll
you
describe
hear
it
it
a lot better
straight from Robin or
than I will.
Like
But
how someone posted Grim.
yeah.
That's
Grim.
a developer that works on it.
Yeah, there's a developer Spoon.
That's why we love doing these interviews with developers, because when you can get a glimpse into their world, it's like the work schedules of the majority, like really the higher percentage, is like not anything people would willingly want to do or talk to a developer about optimization.
Mm-hmm. So Combat Waffle Studios, they got 2 other games in the works. Grim, which is Rust on Mars in VR. It's going to be a home run. We're playing it on PC VR right now. When that hits on Quest,
yeah,
that's going to be crazy. And then they have Silent North in the works as well too, which is kind of like a DayZ in VR. That's going to be nuts. So, dude, Combat Waffle's so big right now with Just Go to the
so many
More.
good games coming though.
Yeah,
I want to get my paws on Batman.
It's actually a question that we received during this is what game? What game? What one game are you really, 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 really looking forward to?
Wanderer, Fragments of Fate, but I'll let you go. I'm sorry.
I'm jumping on the Batman bandwagon, which I never thought I would, because full disclosure, I don't go home and like go, oh, I wish I had a superhero game. Loved Iron Man, would probably play any of them, but it's not my go-to genre. But because of what I've seen
From Camouflage, the developer behind it.
with these Batman trailers, I'm like, I have to see this to believe this. It's like it is. I mean, if it's half as good as I'm being shown in these trailers, is like, come on, man, this is gonna be a great freaking game.
To me, Iron Man 100% sells me on Batman because of the execution of Iron Man VR.
When we
was so
played
on
Iron
point.
Man, that's when you started even saying like, there's so many other superheroes you could do. This works, you know.
So I think they're gonna.
So I'm on the
crush it.
Batman hype train.
Yeah, but Wanderer Fragments of Fate is probably my number one right now. And then the referenced earlier Resolution Games, Dungeons and Dragons is up
Yeah,
there as well
that's-
too. So many good ones.
There's
And then
a lot of good stuff coming.
Grim, Silent North that I mentioned a moment ago too. Too hype for those. If anybody's working on Civilization VR, just come out and say it. I won't be upset. That would become my number one.
You put it out into the universe every single week.
Yeah, Mike said can't wait for Quest players to experience Wander. Yeah, every time I think I'm about to, goes back a little bit. But I'm not
We're
upset,
not upset
that.
about it.
Nope. If it needs
Nope.
to get delayed to be the best game, I'm not complaining.
Let it ferment.
Yeah,
you know?
I never got to play the original Wanderer on PC VR, and I don't even want to touch it, knowing that the remasters coming with
I just
Fragments of Fate.
I hope we haven't put so much heavy emphasis on how great it's going to be that it doesn't live up to the expectation of greatness. But
Based off
thinking
of
it
how
will.
much people loved
Yeah,
the original, they would have to really f up the remaster. I got faith. I'm so pumped for that one. I just want to be in
I
Woodstock.
think it'll be good.
NV wants a Pokemon game.
Pokemon.
Oh, Mike goes, what genre other than real-time strategy do you think is lacking in VR? Board games.
Board games, definitely.
Board games. Just the big title, Hasbro. Hasbro could come in to the Quest platform and like
Clean sweep.
Scrooge McDuck leave with money bags of money. Look at the Hasbro libraries. Ridiculous.
Yeah, they do well on the flat screen. I won't deny owning one of their bundles for Xbox.
I love Lego Bricktales, but I want a sandbox Lego game. Give me
Yeah, which
every
is-
Lego piece
Yep.
and just let me build whatever. You could even sell me DLC packs of like, here's the Star Wars Darth Vader pack.
Yep.
I'll buy it. Like,
Never lose a piece.
and I isn't
pull it up to scale. Have like a 30-foot Darth Vader head in your room.
is Lego Hasbro as well?
No, I think Lego is Lego.
Okay.
Lego's Lego.
Okay. Just making
Legos,
sure. I was
Lego.
gonna say, because if that's another thing,
If
Hasbro's
somebody
leaving on
owned
the
Lego,
title, they own the world.
Lego's right in Connecticut. They're our neighbors.
So, Hasbro, man, what
Yeah,
you doing?
Board games is a lacking.
Yeah.
And I get it. On paper, it's probably a tougher sell than some other games.
But imagine playing Monopoly and it's in 3D, like it's coming to life in front of you. Or the game of life. I always talk about it. Playing Life in VR.
a full version of Rock
Game of
Band.
Life would be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There was a Rock Band in PC VR, but I think on standalone Quest, hell yeah. That's another like.
Yep.
Ooh.
Someone's got to do it.
So would you say
Monopoly,
cooperative
go to
rhythm games
jail.
are slacking in VR?
Cooperative rhythm games, yeah. Even
So,
though they're
a good rock
we've
band.
played a few, but
There's Band Space is that one
Yeah.
that's kind of like a rock band, still early in the work. So let's see where that goes.
just suckers for everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If it's VR and you can put it on your face, you're ready to go. All right. So if you put on your future hats, let's say in the next 5 years, where do you see or where do you hope that VR goes?
Exactly how we're going, just stronger, higher quality, higher resolution headsets every couple of years. I mean, I don't think at any point it's going to we're improving very fast as is. So I don't think it can go much higher without even maybe outpacing the consumer spending habits. So it's like, I think things are just going to continue exactly how they are now. New Quest headset every 3-4 years, if I had to guess. I think that we'll continue to see, this is pure my own speculation, just like we saw pancake lenses and color pass-through launch on a pro model and then eventually make its way to a consumer model. I think maybe we'll see some more of that. Some really cool features come in a pro model, then make its way to a consumer model. But I think the headsets are just going to get more powerful, higher quality lenses, higher quality pass through. Hand tracking is going to be better. We're going to see more haptic devices, more companies willing to make accessories and kind of build their business around there being, X million headsets on the market. And I think we're just going to be continuing to grow how we're growing now.
I think as long as companies like Meta are willing to dump billions into research and design for, essentially almost one could argue a huge percentage for everyone, that's going to be the biggest factor is having, because the headsets are naturally going to get smaller and the technology is going to have to get better and the headsets are going to get smaller to eventually, I'd love to see the just full blown VR glasses, standalone. And I can see it with the technology movement I'm seeing in my lifetime. So,
Well, Shoes asked the question, what are your favorite App Lab games that didn't get a release? Now all of them are about to be on the store. So
they're all on the store. It's irrelevant. All graduates now. We're passionate about that.
I would say my top two would be Atlas Mystery and Squingle. Off the top of my head, there's definitely one or two I'm missing as well too. So shame on me.
Atlas Mystery will always go down in my head.
And
It's an I
Squingle.
don't understand. And Squingle just because.
Last time we talked to Ben, you thought Swingle was on the store.
Yeah, I was convinced because I'm like, it's original. It's kind of like puzzly. It's got I like when studios take risks and make something that nobody's done. I don't mind when somebody takes the basic formula and does it themselves and makes it a little better or whatever. But when you bring something new to the table, it should be rewarded appropriately.
Mm-hmm.
But Atlas Mystery was great. I had a great time in that one.
Yeah, I think those are my top two.
I would agree. I would not argue that.
I know I'm missing one, so I'm sorry. If
I thought those were the only two that we never predicted graduation from.
We had a really good success rate in like 2021,
Like
2022, into
98%.
2023. Like
Yeah.
pretty much every game that we were like, this App Lab game should be on the official store. 6 months later, boom. So we were good at predicting. That was where our Swingle misses.
Now it's irrelevant.
Swingle, man, such a good game.
That's a fun one. Great developer too.
Ooh, thank you, Shoes. Bocce time.
Bocce time. Yep,
Bocce
that's the
time.
third.
That's the walkabout mini golf of App Lab.
Yep.
If you've never played Bocce time, highly recommend. So 10 out of 10. So good.
Great with your friends too. We had a lot of meetups in bocce time.
Great developer too.
It taught me how to play bocce.
Yeah.
Wasn't my jam when I was a kid, so we had lawn darts. Just throw a sharp missile in the air and hope it doesn't hit you.
I still talk about lawn darts. I've had some close calls when I was younger.
Right. I mean, think of that young
look
little
up.
test. Oh, dude, who? It's no longer the point of get it in the ring. It's who can throw
It's
it the
avoid
highest.
the dart.
Yep, I'm gonna throw it right up
Go
into
up
the
and-
sun too.
Davis goes, I had a dart in my leg.
It's not funny.
Those things, man.
But
Those
it's
things were
funny.
hard. And I don't get why they had to be as sharp as they were. They're going in the ground. Like
Right?
they need to be like needle sharp.
It took them a decade before they like toned down the sharpness of it. No, it was a legit dart.
Well, I don't want to hear anything bad, so cover your ears, Dad. But sometimes with my friends and cousins, sometimes we would play with airsoft guns a little bit. I do not recommend. And I may have gotten shot a couple times. And I fast forward, that was probably like 10 years old, right?
Yeah.
Just doing stuff that I shouldn't do,
about it.
And this is how I remembered it. It's funny what you forget. So used to set up like big forts, pretty much doing spatial ops in real life with my cousins and friends. And then like fast forward 10, 12 years later, I had a knee injury from Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Like wasn't too big, but I was like, I should go get it looked at, right? And anybody that's ever navigated the American healthcare system, you got to start with an x-ray no matter what. Even if you don't need an x-ray, that's what you start with. So I got an x-ray on my knee and the nurse walks in all happy. She goes, so when did you get shot with a BB? And I go, what are you talking about? She goes, there's a BB right underneath your knee in your shin. I was like, well, I know exactly when that happened. What I want to know, though, is like, how did I miss that as a kid? Like, you would think if you got shot, like it would be sticking out a little bit or something like that. I don't know how I missed that, but I got a BB in my leg still.
Not comfortable. Not safe. I'd rather have a lawn dart. So, another thing too is, you all have done your podcasts and all that. And now recently you were invited to join the MetaQuest Creator Program, who we've had some of those members on before. in our AMA sessions. So far, what has been your favorite aspect?
If you want to go.
I personally, to watch the group think tanks at work more than anything else is when you can get like-minded people together in a room, even if it's just in, a chat. It's cool. I mean, you're gonna learn something, and one of the reasons I'm grateful to be in it is to learn as well as contribute. So there's a wealth of knowledge to soak in all around. So that's been the best thing for me.
Yeah, I kind of to follow up on that. It's pretty similar for me. It's the community aspect of it, like being able to talk with other creators and stuff. If there's anything that we slack on, there's anything that we're guilty of besides not live streaming gaming enough, is not interacting with other creators enough. There are other creators that we interact with, definitely for sure. It's not like we're just these lone wolves, but we're not always talking with everybody in the same way that we talk with other developers. We have a much closer relationship with a higher number of developers than we do other content creators. I think for most content creators, it's kind of the opposite. So, that program, it allows us to talk with other content creators that maybe we wouldn't always interact with.
Oh, 100%.
Besides, like, we talk a lot with like Skiva and a lot of them, but not the ones in the group. We talk with Mateo a lot, who's in the creator program
Yep.
as well too.
We've met him a couple of times.
Shout out to Ninja Guy and Live Open Mike, who are in the live chat now. They're both content creators. They interact a lot in our Discord as well too. But just being able to meet all those other creators and interact with people and get those type of connections is
I think our Discord as a whole, as a community that it is, actually, it is that.
mhm.
Because if you look at the makeup of the people that are there, it's, some people who just listen to the podcast. Maybe they don't talk a lot in the Discord, but there's developers in there. There's other creators in there.
So yeah, no, big fan of the creator program and being able to meet all the other creators there. That's definitely my number one.
Awesome. And actually, two more questions actually about your podcast. One of them that I had been saving for the end is from one of the community members is have you ever thought about hosting your podcast in something like Horizon Worlds or a social app where it's all virtual? So you
I
can
think it
like
would be
have
cool to
like
do like
audiences in room with you.
think it would be cool to do like a special live episode
We had
sometime.
in the early. Remember, we had looked for every like what business app programs do they have where we can get a bunch of people in here. Wouldn't it be cool if we could, put together a studio and do one in like an actual? And at the time, it, admittingly, it was a struggle for the both of us to be in a room together in one of these apps that we had tried. But we had talked about it years ago of maybe one day doing like a virtual episode or
I think it would be cool for like a live episode, a special event, like an anniversary episode. I don't know if I'd want to transition the whole show outside our existing format,
no, sir.
especially because sometimes, we do make errors. The editing time is nice as well too. Hey, we're from New England. Sometimes,
It
get
happens.
a little too carried away out here. But I think it would be really cool for being able to engage with the community
Mm-hmm.
and just do something, a bit
Especially
bit different.
if it'll take in large numbers, like
Well,
you can have a good amount of people in there. It's
and
even better.
let's be real. If there's like a recording stage world in Horizon Worlds, it's like an auditorium and easy. Like why not? That they have like an outside camera that you
People
can
can
record
throw
in.
stuff at you though, right?
So it's not
And
something that we've done, but I mean, definitely really open to it, especially for a special event.
and for those who um, are hoping to start their own podcast or have been thinking about it, kind of what's your advice for them to like get started? Like if you were to tell one person, this is like all the advice I could give you.
I'll let you go first if you want, but I'm so happy because I'm going to give the same answer when it's my turn that we always hear from developers
Oh yeah,
when they
well,
say it to us.
you already know.
So
the-
now
the
I get to throw the same answer I've heard from hundreds of developers about, what advice do you recommend to somebody wanting to be a developer? Now we get to say about podcasting.
legitimately just start. Just start. I don't care if you do it in your cell phone. Just start to get comfortable. Don't shy away from.
Oh, but I don't have this. I don't know
yeah,
this.
those are excuses. You have a cell phone. You have a way to start, and then technology today allows you to actually take a cell phone recording and actually make it not too shabby. invest a little actual money into quality equipment and don't try to take shortcuts with, hey, I saw this microphone for $99.99. It's like it might not be what you're really looking for. So find the voice that you
But
want.
if you can't afford that expensive mic either at the start, don't let that stop you. Start with something else in the meantime and work your way to that.
I agree with that, but it's like you can make affirm payments on pretty much anything nowadays. You know, it's like I just take away all the excuses and just because look at how many times we've had to update. And it's like, and post your stuff on all social media because it's a common question we'll see in podcast groups. Like, I don't want to post on YouTube. Remember all the people who wouldn't post? I'm
That's
not
a
putting
funny
my
discourse
podcast.
that people have no idea goes on in the podcast world.
Yeah, and it's like don't fight any social media. You need to be on everything because a lot of people will do a podcast and just, well, I turned on the lights. People should be listening. Well, it doesn't work that way. You know, people don't know who you are. You just show up. But that would be my best advice.
Just start. Yeah, that was going to be my
Start and
advice.
just spend a little bit of money to improve the audio, and you don't even have to do it from day one, but you have to start
Hmm.
with no excuses.
And I'll also say is like, now that since you took my one, I was going to say, I got to say something a little different, but absolutely just start. That's number one. But I mean, really know your niche that you want to go into as well, too. Everybody wants to be Joe Rogan and talk about whatever.
Not happening.
Not everybody's Joe
It's not
Rogan
realistic.
off the top, Maybe one day you can start a podcast about, your walls being blue or whatnot. But you should probably pick a topic and stick with that. You can talk about yourself. Our listeners do enjoy hearing, like, sometimes when we go a little off topic, but don't forget what your show's about either. And yeah, I
And
mean,
you have to believe in what you're that's an easy mistake. And that goes to like if you don't have that passion, like again, we've never missed a week and we've never complained about not missing a week. It's almost like bragging rights. We don't ever want to miss a week under any circumstances.
yeah,
We'll try to figure it out. But
pick a topic you can see yourself talking about weekly for years.
for years.
Don't pick something that's like,
It's a
finite.
job. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. Don't treat it like going to work and punching in, or else it's gonna feel like that. It should never feel like that.
So yeah, just start, but pick a topic, stick with it, and yeah, I can't say it enough. Just start doing the damn thing.
Enjoy the ride.
Cool. Well, with that, I want to thank you both for hanging out with us for the last hour, and you glad to see your community came over as well. It's been great talking to you both. It's been interesting podcasting with podcasters. That's it's fun flipping scripts on each other. It's great. And if you like, tell everybody where they can find you, who might not be already familiar.
On all podcast platforms. So pretty much anywhere you enjoy podcasts, that might be Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Podcast Addict,
YouTube.
Overcast. Used to be Google Podcasts, but that's another dead by Google product these days. But anywhere you enjoy podcasts, if you type in Ruff Talk VR, you'll find us. You can also find us on YouTube, Ruff Talk VR, and that's RUFF, Ruff Talk VR. But also, if you go to rufftalkvr.com, you can find a direct link to all
Everything.
directories and stuff like that too. And if it's not on the list of our directories, if you can listen to podcasts there, we're there. I promise that.
Cool.
And then we also have
And
sorry
yeah,
to plug too much, but we do have a great Discord server as well too that I highly recommend y'all hop in as well too. You can find the link for that on our website as well.
cool. Yeah, and another thing for everybody to remember is surprise today at 3 to 5 p.m. We're actually going to be having a play session for what was it? Oh my gosh! Oh, Dungeon of Eternity, and it is also a part of our Summerfest free play weekend. So you can actually go and download it starting at 3 o'clock your local time, and you can play it for an hour, which is perfect because that means you can come play with us during our play session. Next week we'll have another play session, and yeah, if you're a VR content creator in any way, like our folks here from Rough Talk, if you're a developer who shares your content, anything like that, make sure to let us know. Put your content into the VR content creators channel that we have here, and we'll make sure that you get tagged as a creator. You can come and join us and hang out with us. So it'll be a lot of fun. And thank you all for showing up. Thank you guys. And until we all see each other again, have fun, enjoy VR, and keep chatting with each other.
Thank you everyone for joining, and
Yeah, that was
Take care.
fun.
peace out.
See you all.